What is going on, Living Ardently fam? It is Adrian here. And before we start today's episode, just want to let you guys know that we recorded this months ago, shortly after we recorded the last episode. And we just haven't had time to put it up. But no, it's here, and it's really exciting. We talk about change and how we can, how Sarah and I kind of are adjusting to change, a lot of it, especially from going from, engaged to married to parents, like within a few months, and then moving. It's been a lot, but God's given us the graces, and we get into the details of how that has affected us and what's been helpful for us, and hopefully you find something that from our experience is helpful for your life. Hope you guys enjoy. Stay tuned. We're going to be having some new episodes recorded with some cool people this coming month, and we're going to be going down to I know we really just release like once every month now, but we're going to be releasing twice a month soon. Just got to get the flow into it. Bear with us. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep living ardently. Enjoy the show, y'all. Peace. Hey, welcome to Living Ardently. I'm your host, Adrian Giraldi, and today I am joined by my beautiful wife, Sarah Beasley. Woo! Oh, wait.
I'm going to say Sarah
Giraldi. Woo! Still getting used to the Giraldi thing, this change of name. Legally, you haven't changed your name yet, so I guess technically you're still Sarah Beasley.
Calling me out.
Well, you've been pregnant, so...
Yeah, that's why my voice sounds like this, by the way.
Yeah.
I've been very sick, so our baby is just stealing my voice right now.
Sucking everything.
So this is as good as it's going to get, guys.
Yeah, so bear with her. I mean, she sounds fine. We'll make it sound good in post, but you're a soft person as it is, so.
Yeah, my voice is kind of hard. Yeah. It's not great for podcasting to begin with.
No, it's good. I think it's great. So today we're here, as promised last week. Last time we had a podcast, we talked about how we were going to have an episode where we just kind of catch up about our life. We originally planned to have a honeymoon podcast, which we didn't end up doing.
Didn't. I forgot.
So I guess in lieu of that, this is what's happening. It's just like, let's catch up, but also let's kind of talk about some of the biggest things that have been in our lives recently. And I guess the central topic of today is going to be about change. I don't know how I'm going to title it, but change has been kind of the name of the game so far.
Yeah, the theme of our whole marriage so far.
Yeah, a lot of changes, and but it's also a lot of trust. I mean, we talked about trust last week, so trust is a big part of that, but with change also comes some responsibility and some things that stressors and things like that we should probably talk about too.
Yeah. I don't know what to say right now.
It's all good. Anyway, we're going to start today's episode. Again, enjoy the episode on trust, and
Should I add a disclaimer about pregnancy brain as well?
If you want to, that's all good. I'm game for it. Before we start today's episode, I just want to give a reminder that, hey, if wherever you're listening, make sure you're subscribed and following. And if you don't know, our episodes actually go live a day earlier on YouTube than they do on audio version on like podcasts. So if you want to get the episodes a day early, go to our YouTube channel, Living Ardently Podcast, and subscribe, and you can get the podcast and see our beautiful faces and all that stuff before everyone else does. So anyway, without further ado, let's talk about change.
Yes.
Let's get into it. Let's go. So we are here again in our home abode of in South Bend, Indiana, and a lot of change.
Yeah. New job for you.
Mm-hmm.
Me leaving my job in Florida, and then a big move. Yeah,
From
out of state move.
From Florida to Indiana.
And then having a baby right off the bat.
Right.
Which is, I guess, feels like the biggest change, or challenge, you could say, right now. It's changed. My life has changed the most being pregnant.
Yeah.
I think, well, getting married as well.
Yeah.
Was a huge change on its own. But for me right now, my particular state, it's what's affecting me the most, obviously, being so sick. So that feels like the biggest change.
Yeah. And for me, it's I mean, similarly, it's like, moving and getting married. These are the big changes in my life that's happening recently. But one of the other big changes is just kind of my position in work, from going to in-person ministry and so in, youth ministry. I know we talked about this before, but like there's a lot of change when it comes to doing, digital ministry. You're in front of a lot more eyes and a lot more scrutiny on social media. So it's interesting because it's lots of like personal interactions, kind of less, but more scrutiny is there. So it's like kind of challenge of adjusting to that, but it's also such a cool thing to do. So, but yeah, adjusting to the new area and living away from family for both of us, I think is a big thing.
Yeah, lots of adjustments there.
Not having community.
That was a big thing, especially when we first moved, getting used to not having friends, family around.
Yeah.
Like we were pretty, like the loneliness really set in.
Yeah.
That type of loneliness.
There's a time when a couple first few weeks here at South Bend where Sarah and I just kind of had a cry fest on the couch.
Yeah.
And I think that's just part of our desires and, the sad feelings that come with change, especially when the change affects good things in your life. Right?
Yeah.
You say that. So what would you say? I know you said that pregnancy has really been the biggest challenge, but what about that change has really rocked your world?
Oh gosh, it's like the responsibility of it all. Like I'm not just taking care of myself. I'm also married, so there's like a responsibility to you as well. And marriage, that partnership. But I thought, I was prepared to take on that. Like I knew that was coming for a long time.
Right.
I didn't know that this was going to happen when it happened.
Right.
I knew there was a possibility, but so the responsibility of taking care of another life now, like I have a child, I'm someone's mother, and then trying to take care of myself, which has been a struggle. Like I've just been in survival mode. So, that's been the biggest. What was your original question? Was
the most challenging part of this change?
I guess the responsibility and knowing like my life's changed forever. Both of our lives have changed forever, and like it's gonna change again, like forever when the baby's actually born.
Right.
And it's just a kind of wrapping your head around that and like embracing that responsibility.
Right. It just there's so much.
Big.
Yeah, there's so much there because like 3 years ago with 2019 before we started dating, like we were just like we were somebody's kid.
Yeah.
We had parents of our own, we still have our parents, obviously, but like we weren't parents yet. We weren't even dating anybody yet. Mm-hmm. And between that, knowing yourself as just Adrian, as just Sarah is one thing for who you are. And then making the change to dating is another thing. And then a fiance engagement, right? And then marriage. Mm-hmm. Like I'm still trying to wrap my head around learning how to be a husband, right?
Yeah, we're still learning how to be husband and wife. And I don't know if I can say this, but when you get a positive pregnancy test, like shit gets real.
It's true.
Like things get real.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Oh yeah.
You just don't know the feeling until it happens. Mm-hmm. And you don't it's surreal.
There's so many. There's also, for us, we weren't, we've been pretty candid about it. We weren't planning for it, but, God's kind of give us this opportunity to do that. And so I think that's kind of the central thing that I wanted to talk about today, that change that you were able to plan for, and then change you weren't able to plan for. And for us, this was a change that, we didn't really have. I mean, we have time to plan for it because there's 9 months in the pregnancy, but like the reality of it hit us so quick that it was shocking, and it kind of set me aback, like, oh crap.
Yeah,
like,
it stops you in your tracks.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful thing when it comes to, when we talked about last week of trust, is just being able to understand that, like, wow, this is huge and I have nothing to do, and then being able to rely on Christ in that. But, for us, we are blessed with this opportunity. I don't use that word lightly because, I know people who, I know have people that have trouble conceiving and, want to have kids but can't. And so we are literally blessed to be able to have this opportunity without having trouble. And as life-changing and like scary as it was always, no matter what, it was still a blessing.
Yeah. On my hardest days, I try to remember, like, hey, like, there's people who would give anything right now to be where I am, like in my shoes.
Right.
Like they've, wanted this so badly and can't or haven't yet. And so I'm like incredibly blessed in that way.
Yeah.
And I try not to forget it.
Yeah. And it's just like I guess a gratitude thing to always be grateful for change, despite maybe you not exactly knowing that you want it or needed it right now. And so for me, like going back to even just the job, right? I didn't, at the time that this job came around, I wasn't really thinking about living ministry. I just really wanted to get ministry back in person. Like we were doing everything online for nearly a year. And I was like, man, let's get back. Let's do this so that, we can meet back in person and resume normal ministry. But it was difficult with just the circumstances with the pandemic, I know the ministry is easier now to get back in person than it was when I was still a youth minister. But it's definitely a change, change in position was just not something I thought about, But when I was blessed with the opportunity to like have a change, I knew that it was something I needed to seize. Like I needed to take advantage of it and not take it lightly. And at the end of the day, like I am so glad that I'm here. Like I'm grateful for the my work that I get to do, as different as it is and things like that. It's really great and gratifying, and the team I get to work with. And I think at the end of every, whether planned or unplanned change, like there's always beauty in them, right? But I think that it's depending on how we, react or respond to it. We can either be keen to that beauty or go blind to it.
Yeah. I think it's kind of in human nature to be just very resistant to change. It's just like you're fearful, and that's normal.
Yeah.
To any kind of change, really. And what is it, like the old saying, like, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've mentioned this on the podcast, but we're like, okay, well, we'll shoot. We're thinking maybe shoot for having the baby next year.
Yeah.
Well, the baby will be born next year in January.
January 2022. Yeah, God is. I think the caption of my post when I said it's like, all right, it was us. We'll plan for baby for next year, and then God say no more or whatever I said.
Yeah, okay, you were very specific with that.
Yeah, you got to be very specific with Christ, with your prayers and stuff. But
and what you were saying before, I was thinking, I wonder if the pandemic had never happened, would you be in this job right now? Like,
it's true.
Because that changed your job so much.
Right, yeah, I don't know.
Opened your mind to other opportunities.
Right.
Opportunities.
Yeah, it definitely would. I would assume that maybe I wouldn't,
Yeah.
You know, maybe I would have. I don't know. But if anything, it probably would have been harder to leave, or harder for me to convince me to take on a new opportunity, because, you know, it had been a year or almost a year of online ministry where it's just like kids either show up or don't. It kind of feels sometimes deflating. But if they were like always going and ministry was fervent, it either would have been really hard to leave or probably the best time to leave if I had like volunteers helping me, you know, and all that stuff. But it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely just seeing how different one little detail could have changed things. Like, had I not gone to Ave, I don't know if we'd be married right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We kind of talked about that before.
Yeah, you'd have to have gone to Ave and met my sister.
Right.
Well, who knows, though? After that, actually, Ave did lead you to the job after, because that's how you started meeting my cousins.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so if you hadn't gone to Ave, you probably wouldn't have met my sister or my cousins.
Yeah, I would have not seen all these little details. You know, these little details wouldn't have not let us.
Or she hadn't gone to Ave.
Or yeah, your sister hadn't gone to Ave, whatever, or had not invited me to the wedding.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe even then we probably would figure things out, but I don't know. It's just interesting.
It's amazing how all the little stepping stones.
One little change can change a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like, not to like digress too much, but like in Loki, like one little change in the timeline. Right?
Oh, like a Nexus event.
Yeah, it could cause a Nexus event, and like you being late to work, that little change can take you out of that timeline.
Yeah.
So I just think it's funny, like just kind of the thought of but in the way it's true, because one little thing in the past of ours could have led to much different futures.
Yeah. So, I mean, change is often a good thing. You never know, like, where it's going to lead you.
Yeah.
And it's usually God kind of leading you somewhere good.
Right.
You know.
So, how about this? What do you think is like? Do you think planned change is actually easier than unplanned change?
I mean, yeah, yes, because it's happening. But still, even though you're preparing for a marriage, you don't know what it's like to be married until you're actually married.
Right.
And, you're living together 24/7. Like, we didn't live together before we were married.
Right.
And it's different than when before you're married.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you take marriage prep and you try to prepare as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still going to be difficult, even if you've planned, because things don't always go according to plan either. Right. Everybody knows, like, you make a plan for something doesn't mean it's going to all go according to that plan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I guess there's a difficulty there because you're expecting it to be a certain way when you already know that it's coming, and then when it's not. So there's like expectations there.
Right.
Unplanned change. I mean, you don't have time to really plan or have your plans fall through. So I guess that's where it would be a little easier than a plan change.
Right.
Change.
For me, sometimes I view unplanned change to be a bit easier.
Really?
Here's why. You kind of alluded to it. When I have something like say I plan for something to, like, I want marriage to go this way. We get married, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do this. The disappointment in things not going the way I'm not a planner, but when I plan, I go like detail by detail sometimes on these things, on what I want, how I want things to go. And when they don't go to plan, it will aggravate me. I'll be upset or, bummed about it. I'm still trying to figure that out. But for unplanned change, if I didn't plan for it, it's stressful at first, but there's no expectations. I have no expectations, and however it goes, it lends myself to be more trusting in Christ
You know, just like in this pregnancy, like I didn't plan for it. Yeah, there was a hell of a lot of stress in the beginning, like thinking about finances and responsibilities, like things we need to get, how we're going to afford it. Like it just, there was a lot to think about there. But at the same time, that led me back to just understanding, like, all right, God's in control here. Like, I'll do what I can. I'll do what I'm able to. But he's going to take care of us, you know? But with plan change, I don't lend myself to be more, I guess,
Flexible?
Trusting in Christ, you know? Yeah, flexible.
Yeah.
And like being flexible or lending myself to Christ and pray and trust in those moments. I feel like I need to have control in that. So I want to say that I think unplanned change, as stressful as it can be, is better, often easier rather.
Oh, interesting.
Than plan change.
Yeah, I think I'm different than you in that I'm actually not much of a planner, and plan change. I think I'm more. Maybe it has a role of my anxiety has a role in this too. I'd rather know about something happening.
That makes sense.
Than being surprised.
Yeah.
And when things don't go according to plan, I think I can kind of, I don't know. It just depends.
Yeah.
Roll with it. But I think for me personally, I think plan change I handle better.
And to clarify, like, plan change versus unplanned change, I guess unplanned change would be like unexpected pregnancy versus planned change would be like getting married and doing marriage prep.
That's what I'm thinking of.
I don't know if I clarified that in the beginning. I just wanted to make sure we covered that. Obviously, there's other things that you can plan for that's not necessarily change. Like you can plan an event, but that's not necessarily changing anything. You know, you plan an event. And then a spontaneous event, like outing, would be a little bit, I don't know, more chaotic. So I think there's a difference there to be
and it might be because in my mind right now, it's like pregnancy is so fresh in my mind that pregnancy, there's so many unknowns as I'm figuring out, we're both finding out. And it's very scary, especially in that first trimester, like what's going to happen? Like, is the baby going to be okay? Right. You know, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, you know? Yeah. And so that's why I think right now I'm more comfortable saying, oh, yeah, I'd much rather know how something's going to go or supposed to go than not knowing. Yeah. Because that first trimester is, I will use the word scary because you don't know, like, is my baby going to be okay? Are we going to get through the first trimester?
Right.
You know?
Miscarriages happen often. A lot more often than people are sometimes willing to talk about it.
So that's somewhere in your mind, you know, all the time. And then being so sick, I wasn't expecting to be so sick.
And you have a severe form of morning sickness, which is called HG. What's the long name for it?
Maybe we can insert it here on the screen.
Let me see. I think I have a screenshot of it.
Hyperemesis gravidarum. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I kind of fumble it every time I say it. But the acronym is HG. Yeah. And basically, usually you have to have medical intervention for the sake of your life and your child's life. Like, it's that serious. Yeah. So I've had to go in and get IVs at the ER. Now I actually have a schedule set up. I go to an infusion place and get IVs so many times a week, and I also have to take medicine every day. Yeah. Or I wouldn't be here. Yeah. Or, you know, or our baby wouldn't be here. So thank God for modern medicine. Yeah,
it's definitely a blessing to have this, and it's also, for me, it's scary to see you in this state because, you know, like, I know you have. I mean, I haven't been with you as like in our like relationship in the time where you really need a serious medical attention. It's like the first time, so it's like really rough for me to see you in these moments. I'm like, man, I don't know.
It's a lot. It's a lot really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that change in that, I guess, makes that change a lot I guess, daunting when we had to go to the ER a couple of times early in the pregnancy to get you liquid because you were dehydrated. It was like before we figured out that you had HG. And yeah, so thank God that there's medicine out there to help you and help this a little bit easier.
Yeah. So that's kind of been like something that's made the change harder, like, and scarier.
Yeah.
Is, like, if I were having no symptoms and just having a breeze of the pregnancy,
that's not always
I
a
could
good
see
thing.
it would have been a lot easier on both of us.
Right. That's not always a good thing.
But yeah, they say being sick is a good sign.
Right.
But I'm 14 weeks now. I'm waiting to get that second trimester glow up that I keep hearing about.
Yeah, that past that threshold there, that's just
Come on now.
waiting to happen. But so yeah, I think plan change and unplanned change, there's always a little messiness in the two, but it's also really interesting to see how people react or respond, especially in particular to their faith when it comes to planned change and unplanned change. Like myself, like I said earlier, I kind of lend to I kind of lean more on Christ when there's unplanned change rather than a planned change. And I feel like,
for sure.
You think that's a kind of a normal thing for most people, or?
Yeah, because I mean, we get kind of lax in our lives when we're comfortable. Not everyone, but it's especially true of me. Like I'm not praying as much. You know, I'm not having like a childlike dependency on God if I'm comfortable. But this whole pregnancy, it's real. Like, Lord, what is going on? Lord, come on, please heal me. Let me feel better. Like, it's been real raw. Like, like, why me? Like, a lot more communication, I would say, even if it's just very raw and just like me, like just blurting out my emotions, my feelings. So much more dependency on God.
Right.
Trying to like look for his graces.
Yeah. I'd say that I've been praying a lot more better and consistently during my time as we were married and prepping for pregnancy. I mean, for the baby, than I was while we're prepping for a marriage. Like, I was praying, but like I'm praying twice as much or 3 times as much now that we've had a baby. Like, I'm finding more times for mass and adoration and trying to carve that part of my regular schedule routine, and then replacing that with other things when necessary. It's just interesting to me because I feel like, especially like in marriage prep, there should be more prayer. But like, I feel like it's just like innate in us to, when we're panicked, when there's like fear, to run to faith, right?
It's like, God, I'm drowning.
I'm drowning.
I'm drowning. Like,
help me. Help me.
Wait, is that a reference to something?
It's from Kevin Hart, but I won't finish it because he ends with a profanity. So
okay.
I'll not finish that one. But we're gonna take a break here. It's a good conversation here. Okay. We're gonna take a break right here, and we're gonna talk about the other side, some tips that help us in this change and planning for change, and like kind of how we can, I guess, get better at it, and do practices that we can do to become more comfortable and willing, and I don't know, just kind of make change a bit easier, I guess is a good word. But yeah, we'll be right back. So did you know that we are an affiliate for Be a Heart Design?
I did.
Yeah. What's a promo code?
Ardently 10?
Yeah. It's Ardently 10. So if you don't know Be a Heart makes amazing, great things for kids, for your homes, for everything. If you want to get us stuff, I want to get
our baby stuff.
Go get some there. If you want to get stuff for your own baby or your friends or baby or whatever, or just stuff for yourself, for your home, go to Be a Heart Design and use Ardently 10 for 10% off, or just use our affiliate link, which is in the show notes below, and you'll help us and get cool things for you, yourself, and your loved ones.
Yeah.
Ardently 10% off, link in bio, all that good stuff. Check it out. And we'll drop our address so you can send us fun stuff too. Just kidding. All right, y'all. Let's get back into it. All right, we are back with more about change. Before we go on, make sure you follow Living Ardently on all of our socials. Living Ardently on Instagram. Myself at It's Only Adrian. You can follow my wife, Sarah Giraldi. On Instagram. And you can follow us on TikTok now, Living Ardently POD, because somebody apparently has Living Ardently on TikTok already and don't know what it is, but they just have like random stuff. So go check us out, Living Ardently POD on TikTok. Probably just longer forms or reels that we put on Instagram that will go on TikTok and vice versa. So also, if you want to see all the episodes a day early, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there, because we'll be releasing the video portions of all the podcasts first on YouTube and then later on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere else. So yeah, make sure you go do that. Anyway, back to this. Oh, and if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave us a review, a rating, and all that good stuff. Helps us out. And if you're following anywhere else, just make sure you're subscribing and following there. But yeah, back to change.
Yes.
So
wait, this is reminding me. Was Obama's big thing, like his campaign slogan, change?
We can change, or yes,
change,
we can.
yeah.
I don't know.
Starting to sound like a campaign. Right?
Yeah, it's starting to sound like a campaign.
Anyways.
But change is good. Change is difficult, but it is also beautiful. But I think it's good for us to kind of talk, as we're talking about change in our personal lives and how we, have, experienced it and the difficulties in it. Obviously, we kind of, there's so much more to talk about, but we'll just be going all day about the challenges and this and that. But I think what would be good here at this latter half is if we share, something like we do every episode, some tips that are helpful for our listeners that they can take away, that they can use in their personal life when they experience change, whether planned or unplanned. Like unplanned things can happen anytime, like a death of a loss of a loved one, end of a relationship, like all these things can be unplanned change in your life that can really be hard to cope with and to navigate if you don't know how to. So I think it'll be helpful if we kind of give out some advice, especially for unplanned change, but also maybe some planned changes and how you can do that better, more fruitfully. So what do you think? What's your first advice to those who are going through unplanned or planned change?
I think to give yourself space and to also give others space if they need it. But also, you may not be, depending on what it is, you may not be okay with it right away. You might not roll with it, Yeah. That's okay. And you might feel like, oh, everybody around me is. Why? What's my problem?
Yeah.
And, but it's okay if you're not okay with it. Or maybe, you adjusted to it better than the other person or somebody else. And, just trying to be aware of the fact that, they have emotions and feelings too, and they maybe they need some time and space. Yeah. So allowing them to have it. Because I think we tend to lash out if we haven't had time to process things, or we tend to take it out on the other person.
Yeah.
If we don't have that, or if we haven't had, I guess, time.
Yeah. I think.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's completely right, because a lot of people navigate change, particularly unplanned change, differently. Like you said, some people will go through it and handle it really well, but others take a lot of time. Say a loss of a loved one, or end of a relationship. Those changes are really, really hard. And I think a temptation that, I know I caught myself in, is to try to be okay with the results or what happened fast.
Before you're ready.
Before I'm ready. Pretend okay, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, it's all good. That hurt, but I'm okay. Let's move on. And that is so harmful, not just for yourself, for the people around you, because you might start hurting people by accident by say, I've seen friends do it, like, or end a relationship and then they try to go out and date somebody new right away. And it's just like, you're not only hurting yourself at this point because you're not ready, but you're also going to hurt this person evidently that you're pursuing or whoever. And so I think it's just, it's prudent and smart to be mindful of that, and knowing yourself and knowing the time it takes to heal from things like that. That kind of changes is hard, regardless if it's, a end of relationship, end of a loved one, a move, this unplanned change, or, it takes time, and you should definitely know yourself in that. Just kind of be mindful of it and be mindful of others and helping them. Because I know you, as a friend, you also have that temptation to want to help them right away. But sometimes a friend he doesn't need to be, unreminded of it, or like, just forget about it. No. I don't need to forget about it. I need to
you don't need to automatically cheer up.
Right. They need to feel those emotions. Sometimes you just need to cry with them, And so I think, to add to that, one useful thing is, if you're struggling, understanding this change is, we kind of talked about last week, is conversing with people. I talked about this with Steve last episode, like, about trust, like, before you make a decision or things like that, even with change, like, when you're struggling, coping with it, talk to someone, talk to a friend, talk to a mentor, talk to a spiritual advisor or a therapist, or heck, even like whatever, like some professional or a friend who's going to just kind of give you an opportunity to get out of your mind, to not just sit with your own thoughts, and be able to help you rationalize, because we can become very radical in our head sometimes, or just very, our minds are dark, like sometimes it's just when we're alone, it just spirals, and it's just really good for us to never be alone. I know we talk about this all the time, and it's kind of like a general advice I always have, but it's because I think it's so crucial. Community is so crucial. Communication is so crucial for everything and every aspect in your life. Going alone is never okay. It was never our design to be alone. And if the pandemic didn't show us that, like, I don't know what will. You know what I mean? People went stir crazy, suicide rates went skyrocketed. Like, we were not meant to be alone. And so I'm looking at you guys, whoever, if you're struggling through something and this change, or, whether it be a relationship change, whatever, like any unplanned change out there, like, listen to me when I say, do not be alone right now. Like, sometimes you do need to be alone, fine. But like, being by yourself all the time is going to not help you at all. Even if that means you go to prayer, go to confession, go to the sacrament, something, just don't do it alone. I pray that you understand that, because that was one of my most crucial advice to anybody, especially when I was in ministry, to handle any life-changing event,
Yeah, I don't know where, I agree 100%. I don't know where I'd be without you. Like, all the kind of dark days that I've had with pregnancy. I haven't really mentioned this, but it's brought on a lot of depression. The HG has brought that on to me as well. Yeah. And just being able to turn to you and just say, oh my gosh, like, just telling you how I feel in the moment, crying. And I'm blessed to have people that I can FaceTime or call and just cry, like my sisters, my mom. Like, I can just call them, and then they say hello, and before I even get the words out, I just start crying, and they're like, okay. Like, they start talking me through it. And like that, I don't know what I would do without that. Yeah. But it is very important to be able to have safe people in your life where you can express your feelings, have a safe place where you can express your feelings.
Yeah.
And where they're going to help you through them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that I can be there for you and you have people there for you because, you know, I know whenever I'm lucky that I get to work from home right now. You know, I know we're going to start doing some hybrid work soon at work. But, you know, at first I was kind of uneasy about it, but knowing that you have your family to lean on through FaceTime, you know, thank God for FaceTime and so video calls. Like, it makes me more comfortable leaving home for 2 days a week to be away for work, 2 to 3 days a week, and be away from you, but also being able to be 5 minutes away from you at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, it's a huge blessing.
So if that's not a testament to how communication and community is so important during the times of change, I don't know what will or what can be. And I think another thing, I mean, I don't know if I talked about this last week. I think I did. But I definitely talked about it in the podcast that I did with my guys from Adrian and Ricky from Small Like Paul. They had me as a guest recently. I don't know when the episode will drop. We'll definitely let you guys know on social about when that episode will drop. If you're not already subscribed to Small Like Paul, go check them out on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts, everywhere else. But we talked about, I gave Adrian, he just got engaged, Adrian Gonzalez, some marriage advice, but we also kind of made an episode about it, marriage prep and things like that. And it was really good. And one thing that I brought up there, I don't know if I brought it up last week, I probably did, but when I went to confession recently, like a month ago now, the first time here in South Bend, the priest was really great. So really recently we had just moved and I was like struggling. I kind of like at that peak moments of struggle with like being able to be a husband and father and, you know, things like that, trying to figure that out and struggling with that. I went to this priest and this priest said, you know, you have to get used to hopelessness. You have to look at a lot of the imagery in our church, especially the crucifix. Christ was helpless on that cross, but he, you know, the resurrection still happened. The imagery of this, like the Pieta, you know.
Get used to hopelessness or helplessness?
Helplessness, sorry.
Okay, you said hopeless.
Oh, hopelessness, sorry. Yeah. I meant to say helplessness, not hopelessness. The priest said, get used to helplessness. If you look at Christ and a lot of the imagery in the church of like during the crucifixion, a lot of it was, you know, hopeless beings. Like Christ was hopeless on the cross. Helpless on the cross. Like Christ was helpless on the cross, you know, and he still, I mean, the resurrection still happened despite that helplessness. Mm-hmm. And this moment of the Pieta, I don't know if you can see that really well, but in the Pieta, Mary holding Jesus after being crucified and died, like there's a lot of helplessness here. But the resurrection still happened. And so in any moment in your life, especially in this, like in times of like a really hard change, there's going to be a ton of moments of helplessness. Sometimes you might even feel hopeless. Who knows, you know? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, helplessness is, you're going to be surrounded by it no matter where you are sometimes. And being used to that is a beautiful thing, and understanding at the end of helplessness, there's always a resurrection. There's always going to be a bright side of it all. And so keeping that in mind, I think will make going through changes, especially difficult ones, whether they're planned or not, can be good. Because like you can plan for a move, and a move will be really hard to deal with, you know? Moving from your home state like we did. Mm-hmm. Like that's a hard change already as it is. But, you know, whatever it is, getting used to the helplessness in that and understanding that the resurrection is probably the most helpful thing I could tell you guys about getting used to change. That was really helpful for me when that priest told me. And that helpless feeling is so often, especially, you know, when you're in the hospital and you are getting treated, or you're getting IVs, or you're feeling sick and throwing up. I can't do much, and I feel helpless. But knowing that Christ is there, I'm there, I do what I can, and there's going to be resurrection at the end, and that resurrection is going to be the baby.
Yeah, I love that helplessness that leads to resurrection.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah,
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that really opened my eyes when that priest told me too, and I was like, man, that is something I don't think I've heard either prior to that. Needless to say, I was like really happy. That was like my first confession in South Bend. I was like, man, we are where we're supposed to be,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the last part here I want to go through is ask us this and kind of give this advice, because I mean, it can be advice. It can be just like practically, what has helped you find joy in this moments of change that's made it a little bit easier during this time?
Well, aside from what I already talked about, reaching out and talking to you or to loved ones or friends, really at first I was so sick I wasn't kind of getting out of the house, wasn't doing anything really, wasn't doing really any self-care. I was just primarily in survival mode.
Yeah.
Still sort of there. But now I kind of have a schedule for the week where I have to go get IVs 3 times a week. So I usually take myself to that because you have work. So I have to do that. And then I recently got a library membership here. Yeah. So I'm able to get books now. Yeah. And that's something that I love. I'm also been attending a first-time moms class. So half of them there are still pregnant. The other half they've had their babies, and just being able to kind of connect with them and hear about other people who are going through similar experiences. Yeah. That's been great for me. So that happens on a certain day of the week, and I look forward to that. So just having those things to go do. And then there's days in between where I might not be feeling well. And those days where it's just really hard to just get off the couch, I'm like, okay, Sarah, you have to, right now, I mean, this isn't really finding joy in the moment, but you have to put one foot in front of the other. You have to get up, And so I think I gotta say, I'm doing pretty good right now. The fact that I can actually go out and do things despite kind of, having to take barf bags with me, things like that. Because I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, you know what? I could just be laying in bed all day. I'm not doing this. I give up. And that's okay. If that's where you are, you can't get out of bed. That's where you are. No judgment there. I mean, that's understandable. But I was like, it could be worse, basically. Yeah. Is what I'm telling myself. But basically, having human connection, doing these things have been bringing me joy. Yeah. Every time I get the IVs, I walk out of there and I just say the prayer of thanksgiving. Thank you, God. I mean, it takes a long time. It takes almost 3 hours. And I always kind of walk out feeling kind of tired, kind of drained, but it's such a good thing for me. I definitely feel so much better afterward. But I just make sure to thank God that I have that opportunity, that's available to me. And the place is so close to us too. And so thank you, God, that I have this, because you and I both, we just couldn't do another ER visit. Yeah. Oh man. And that's just not practical to live that way. Yeah. And I have a good team of people, I guess, taking care of me now. And just other resources and stuff that have become available to me in my pregnancy as well, that I'm so grateful for. And just pushing myself to get out there And obviously, I wouldn't push myself too hard to where it's something that's detrimental. But
right. But,
just kind of having that light schedule of things to do during the week.
Yeah, building some sort of routine
that are helping me and my baby.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of brings meaning back amidst like the suffering.
Right.
Yeah.
Just kind of creating a routine, I think, is super helpful. For me, that's exactly what I was going to share. Like, in the time of change here, it's been a lot, but what's been helpful for me is creating that routine and finding the time to like go to the gym and be able to work myself physically and go out there. And I've been trying to do different things where I go in the morning or I usually typically go in the evening, but like let me try to change it up. Maybe it'll be easier for me to go in the morning. I can't get up in the morning. I tried it a couple times, didn't work out. But I found out like during the lunchtime is probably like the best time for me. Like going during lunch, just like eating a quick meal or eating a quick meal after, before or after. Then going to lunch during a lunch hour. Finding that routine in the gym has just been helpful, but also like making time for leisure, whether it be with you or like with my guys on the video games. Like we don't play as often as we used to, but like getting that time to do that. Finding joy in little things like doing stuff for the podcast or recording and getting back into that routine that I had where I was like, work, gym, and stuff for the podcast and social stuff, Instead of doing social things outdoors, it's more so doing video games with my friends online. But, that's my way of connecting with my groomsmen still, like keeping in touch with them is playing Call of Duty once every other week or whenever we're able to play, sometimes twice a week, who knows. But yeah, like finding a routine, I think is just really helpful for any of us to kind of get out of the monotony of feeling, or I feel like numbing the feeling of like everything is out of control or change is like out of hand, like finding that routine, building routine, like makes it, doing things that you are familiar with helps cope with that change and make change easier for the time that when you are in a new location like us. Creating routine of things that you are used to doing, that you are familiar with, is helpful.
That you enjoy.
Yeah, so, that you enjoy. Yeah. That you that brings you that that's reliable. Gives you those endorphins that you need that are healthy for you to be happy, to feel joyful. It helps when you build that routine. It's just really helpful to kind of feel like change is not that drastic, Obviously, that's kind of speaking from our perspective of moving and becoming parents and all these things. So, I mean, obviously, handling change for someone who is gone through losing a loved one or a relationship, ending a relationship, it's a little bit different. But I think there's still a beautiful thing that comes with finding change. Finding routine in those changes. Like, I remember when I went through my first middle school breakup, it was like early high school breakup, I was still pretty big and I lost a ton of weight, was like down to like 140 and I looked really good, I was really healthy. It wasn't really healthy. I lost like 20 pounds a month. I was kind of losing a lot, but I found so much joy in the gym, or just like, finding something new to fill my time with, that I was able to like lose a ton of weight. I should have ate more probably. Like I was in such a calorie deficit that it was just like...
Yeah, I was going to say too much of a good thing.
Yeah, too much of a calorie...
Too much exercise.
Too much of a calorie deficit, So obviously doing it differently would be like eating a little bit more, but also still finding that routine and working out. But, it's still like good, I think, in those moments of like losing relationship change and things like that. Find something positive in your life that's helpful to bring you joy. Reminds you of the goodness that is still there, despite the loss of a good thing.
Yeah, try to do something that you enjoy, passionate about, and for me, like I really enjoy reading books, and it's kind of funny because I used to work at a library, and I think that's kind of when I was reading the least. It's really funny.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, okay, time to. I've got a lot of time on my hand. On my hands. I can read now.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast I can see you go through like books. Like for me, I'll read, but I'm more of an audiobook person. Like I'm not like.
Yeah, well, I had some books that were hard to put down this week.
Yeah. She blasted through like 4 or 5 books. It seemed like this week.
And it's so funny when I was working at the library. It seemed like it took forever for me to finish a book. It's just, it's so ironic.
You see this
funny.
bookshelf behind me if you're watching. You see this bookshelf behind me if you're watching, and it's full of books. Half of them I've read and half of them I haven't. There's a ton more books downstairs. Actually, these are just more like...
A couple of them are mine, right?
I guess so, yeah. They're Bibles and, 33 Days of Morning Glory.
Quite a few Bibles.
Yeah.
Adrian
I
has
Bibles.
a pretty impressive Bible collection.
I don't know why. I do know why.
That could be like a reel one day. Like, how many Bibles?
Adrian? I have a lot of Bibles because when I was a youth minister, I would always buy, like people at Ave would always sell their Bibles or give them away. And I would take them because I knew that I'm going to encounter a lot of teens that probably don't have Bibles. So I just kind of took them. And like if a kid didn't have one and they said that they didn't and they wanted one, and I would just like, hey, all right, come to my office and I'll give you a couple. And I just have so much that I still have left over here. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't read books as much as she does, but I find my joy through working out and just doing stuff for the podcast, playing video games and stuff. So whatever it is, go find it because I'm sure it'll be helpful in this time of change. And I think again, remembering getting used to that helplessness and relying on Christ in these moments of change is probably the most effective thing. And if you want to talk about trust, because trust, I think, intertwines completely with this topic of change, go listen to last week's or the last episode 88, because I think it's super helpful. We also reveal that we were pregnant there. So if you don't know, now you know, Mr. President. And yeah. I think that's pretty good. That's a good amount of information that we gave. And
yeah, hopefully. I'd just like to reiterate the fact that I'm not sad. I'm not about to burst into tears. This is just how my voice sounds right now. This is pregnancy sickness.
Yeah. I think you sounded great.
I tend to have a sad voice normally, and it's a little sadder sounding. So I just want to say I'm okay. Well, I'm okay.
You're quote unquote.
But it's pregnancy. So I'm trying.
That's not your first time on the podcast. People know what your voice sounds like.
Yeah, Is anybody else the type of person who just can't stand listening to their own voice?
I feel like there's
people who are comfortable listening to themselves on tape, and then I'm one of the people that are just very.
I used to be like that, but after editing my podcast so many times, it's just like
you get used to it.
So used to it now.
Yeah, I can't, or I haven't gotten used to that yet. That's a hard one for me.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for me to listen to any of the ones that I'm on.
Understandable. But there's a good amount of people out there that ask for you to come back, and so we'll have you more regularly. That is
surprising to me. not after they listen to this one, they'll be like, wow.
I mean, you look at
what happened to her.
A lot of the popular Living Ardently posts is because you're on them, like baby announcement.
Blows my mind.
So people love a good relationship story.
So hopefully next time I come on, I'll get some of my voice back from this baby.
Yeah. So we'll have you back on as often as you allow.
Maybe it's a sign the baby will have a good singing voice or something.
Let's hope. It means Filipino. It's gotta, right?
Yeah.
Like that Rio. He's got to be a good dancer and a good singer. Otherwise,
it's like Filipinos, good looking, good dancers, good singers.
Make
them short.
I'm gonna make them short. But yeah, I think that's all we got for today. I hope this was helpful in some way, shape, or form. If you want to continue the conversation about change and give us some more advice, or maybe you have advice there that you want to offer to the community, let us know or put it into the comments of this YouTube video. Or if you're listening on podcast, send us a DM. Give us some more things that we can probably put out there for the listeners. And yeah, I hope you found this helpful. If you're going through change, know that you're not alone. If you're going through a difficult time, again, you're also not alone. We're here with you, praying with you. If you want to, text us your prayer request or call us or call and pray with us, call 407-720-8522. And we'll get back to you as soon as you can. Send us a text message or pray. Reminder, I am not, if you need in need of a counselor, I am not one of those. I am not a crisis hotline. There's on the show notes below. You can get that if you need it. But I am here, just a friend. That's a friend to pray with you and to kind of go through some stuff if you need a friend to go through it. And subscribe everywhere else. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, all of our other episodes, YouTube, and all that good jazz. Follow us on Instagram, Living Ardently. It's only Adrian, Sarah Giraldi. And that's about it, y'all. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye.
And keep living.
My voice keeps surprising me.
And until next time, keep
living
ardently. Peace. Let's go.